say this is the best thing they've ever done? Me too. One of them. I'm really excited. All right, let's get up these stairs. Stress over. It's so nice just to know that you guys have decided to spend some time with not just Marshalls, but me today. I don't take your time for granted at all. And I feel such deep gratitude to even be given a stage like this, a pretty blue, perfect Marshall stage like this. So yes, we're gonna talk about self-worth today, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself just to start with. As our lovely intro said, I am Mandi. I'm Mandi Woodruff-Santos. I'm a career and negotiation coach, but I haven't always been a career and negotiation coach with my own business, with a community of hundreds of women, specifically women of color, who I am helping achieve their wildest career ambitions and career dreams. That's who I am today, but I think we're all friends now, so I might show you a little bit about my past today, because I definitely believe we bring everything into the picture when we talk about our self-wealth, all right? So the first thing I want to do, or the second thing I want to do, the first thing I want to do is just tell you why. Like, why am I here of all the places I get invited to go? And I am fortunate enough to get invited to go places and speak just like I am now. But I'm able to say no, and that's a power that I've gotten to a place where I can really just spend the time where I feel like my message is valued and that you're gonna get a great experience. And that's why I love partnering with Marshalls. I mean, they believe just like I do that women should get more, get better deals, get the good stuff. Now, we get the good stuff on the racks. I mean, come on now. Can you even with this fit? Thank you. Everything from the shoes to the earrings. I'm very proud. But that it should be accessible to everyone and that we are worthy of the good stuff, right? So that's why I'm here today. That's my reason for why, and I'm so happy I said yes and made this happen for myself. So now I want to ask you to do something. I'm doing a lot, right? Y'all are chilling with your lobster rolls and like snacks, jealous. Can you take the book in front of you, please? And hopefully you have a writing utensil, if they still make those in America and we all remember how to write. Please, in your notebook, this is for your eyes only, write down 3 things that you think of determining your self-worth. 3 things that you believe determine your self-worth. And we're gonna come back to those in the session, but just the first 3 things that come to mind. Don't stress. I see some, don't stress. You got this. When you think about your self-worth, what are those 3 components that you take into consideration? Anyone need more time? You can continue scribbling as I continue chatting. It's okay, we're all friends here. But I want to take us back, maybe not too far back into our childhoods, but as women, I mean, how many of you guys feel like from a very young age, you're taught a specific story around your worth? You're taught that our self-worth is wrapped up in a few things: what we can achieve, what we can offer to others, whether it's beauty, it's access, it's money, it's power. What do you have to offer? That's part of how you're worthy. And how others feel about what you have to offer. Now, I'm basically describing what it means to be on the internet today, right? But look at Instagram, any social media. How many of you guys have posted something that you've achieved, posted something that you're proud of on social media, and actually tracked the number of likes that you've gotten? Be honest. Like, yeah, that got 34, that got 100, yeah, cool. And then how many of you guys have even gone so far as to take a post down if it didn't get that many likes? Thank you for being honest. Same. There's this sense that if we aren't validated, if others don't say what we have to offer is worthy, that somehow it's not worthy. I've literally, again, just described what it's like to live on the internet today, all right? So how can you figure out what really matters for you when we are prompted with all these different tools to always look outward for that affirmation, right? So all you see on the internet are like people celebrating. My clients are constantly talking about, I feel bad about my career, my achievements. I'm seeing people get promoted. I don't feel like, I've gotten the promotion that I deserve. Like, what do I do? Brag about myself? Like, what's so special about what I've done? Is it worthy of being shared, right? Maybe that's not everyone in the room, but it's so many women across the country, and certainly in my community that feel that way. And then when you do get that when you do get a comment, it's almost a sense of relief, like, oh, phew, someone thinks this is okay. Someone thinks that what I've said matters. Now, I want to change, maybe not in this hour, because I know my own limits. I'm not a superwoman. I'm pretty great, but I'm not going to be changing complete societal norms all in one afternoon. But I would like you to at least leave with this. You are not worthy because of your success. I'm a woman who helps women fulfill their career ambitions and be successful. I'm telling you now, that is not what makes you worthy at all. Now, I want to say that again for the girls in the back. You back there? Yeah. You are not worthy because you are successful. When you cultivate self-worth, the success comes to you. When you cultivate your own self-worth, everything that you think of when you think about success, it comes to you from a place of your own worthiness and your own knowledge of your worthiness. So I want to do a little story about myself. 10 years ago, it's more than 10 years ago, the Great Recession, 2009. I was a graduate from the University of Georgia. I think I was the last person they actually allowed to leave with a degree in print journalism because it was like a dying field. And everyone who came after me was like, no, don't worry about newspapers. Nah, those kids are screwing out. Good luck to them. And I actually moved to New York from Georgia. I was lucky enough to get a job, and I felt good about myself. I felt chosen. I felt special. So many of my friends, so many of my peers were not getting job opportunities, but I was picked. I got to go to New York City. I'm from Georgia. This is a big freaking deal. And 3 months later, I was let go. And 3 months later, I was walked into a room with the editor-in-chief. I still remember her pixie cut. Still can visualize it. I'm so sorry, but we have to let you go. Okay? That job, those people in that room, they discarded me like a piece of garbage. And in the economy that we have right now, they're doing it quite often. I know deeply, intimately what that feels like. Now, I went from that rejection to then hitting the job market and being rejected time and time again. Applications sent in, putting my best face forward, reading all the tips and tricks, cover letter after cover letter, asking for friends who know someone, please give me anything, dozens of rejections. Now, all of a sudden, I had no metric for determining my success. Job, didn't have one. Salary, didn't have one. I didn't even have unemployment benefits because the State Department of New York, the Department of Labor, I still hold a grudge because they fought with me all summer for my pitiful little unemployment checks. I didn't even have that. And if I didn't pay my rent by August 1st, I wasn't going to have an apartment either. So I had experienced a failure, right? And I genuinely felt like one. I felt like I had deserved it, like I was unworthy, and that's how I got in this position. I was ashamed. Like I had graduated college, I did everything right, and moved to New York City to fulfill my dream. You can write a sitcom right now based on that plot, right? I had let my dreams and my ambitions run wild. I shot for the moon, and I did not land on the stars. I landed on my, can I say ass? I put butt on the card so they would let me print it. Now, I thought I was worthy of this great new life, but the world was giving me all these signs that I wasn't, right? No job, no one to get excited about what's going on in your life, because once you're the girl without a job for a few months, it's like people start to not know what to say to you. It's like, oh, you're still sad, huh? And you've already asked them for everything they can do for you, and they're like, you want to get brunch? No, I can't afford brunch. So when I finally got a job, I did. I got here, right? So this is going to be a good ending, don't worry. I got a job 3 months later, and it was a pitiful salary. I was way underemployed. I was a glorified intern, and they treated me like so. But because at that point, I thought my job title, my salary, this matters for who I am, I thought, well, this is what I'm worth. I'm worth $35,000 and no room for negotiation. I'm worth You maybe will get promoted in 15 months if you hit these insane metrics. And I'm worth having a manager micromanage me and at every turn question my ability to do the one thing that I know how to do, write and tell stories. I thought, well, this is what I'm worth, okay? I remember the day when I turned this mentality around for myself. This was a couple of years into this new job. My boss sat me down and told me I wasn't going to get the promotion that I had ticked all the boxes to achieve. I did all the steps, followed all the rules, and she said, "Don't quite think you're ready, sweetie." Something in me snapped. She didn't think I was worthy of more. She didn't think so. But why was I letting someone else, some outside force, tell me what I was worthy of? She had no idea who I was, where I came from. She didn't care to know. Something fierce and fiery was born inside of me. How many of you guys have had a moment like that? Where you're like, oh, hell no. That was the day I realized I was pinning my own self-worth on all the wrong things. It's okay to want money. It's okay to want a killer job. Of course I want those things. We should all be able to, achieve those things if we want them. But I was telling myself that I was only worthy of so much money, so much success. That's when I started to move entirely differently in my career and my life. So I want to teach you guys today, this is my promise to you, you're not just listening to story time with Mandi. I'm gonna talk to you about 3 key strategies that you can use to lift up your idea of your own self-worth and to redefine how you value yourself. And I promise you, I will connect the dots. How does this apply to your career? How does it apply to your ambitions? It's all tied into this. These are the strategies that saved me. These are the strategies that helped me grow from that 22-year-old, because she was too broke, that 22-year-old girl who had student loan debt and had no idea how to get out of it, and turned me into the woman I am to now. Fierce woman, I would say. I'm a mother, 2 little boys. 5 months ago, okay. I'm a friend, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm the artist that you see before you today, all right? All because of these 3 strategies. So let's get into it. So the first key I want to talk about may be a little out of left field, but investing in yourself early and often. Invest in yourself. And another way to put this is, don't wait for the pat on the shoulder. Don't wait for the magical person to discover you, whether it's a boss, a colleague. I used to read teen magazines and I'd be like, oh, I'll go to the mall and maybe someone will discover me and my life will be changed. Or, you have these completely unrealistic expectations, but you expect someone to tell you that you are worthy, and only until you are touched by that magic wand that you deserve more, right? Women of color in the room, we really can't wait for that tap. Because the reality is, more often than not, we are overlooked, we are underestimated, we are not seen as special, we are not seen in many rooms that we have gifts to offer, that our voice matters. So it's on us to tell ourselves we are worth investing in, we are worth that course, taking that course to learn that new skill. We are worth taking a job somewhere else that will give us a shot at more responsibility. We are worth walking up to someone and saying, hey, I love what you do as a videographer. Could I shadow you for a while? Because I want to invest in myself and my skill set so that I have more value, so that I can learn new skills and continue growing, all right? Now, instead of beating myself up for not being able to get a new job after that layoff, okay, I beat myself up a little bit, all right? I had to look at the facts. I wasn't unworthy. The skills that I had gained in college, they just weren't gonna cut it. That was the reality. It wasn't me that was unworthy. It was the fact that the economy was changing, my industry was changing. So I needed to invest time in learning how to shift with that change. So if you're someone who's feeling like you're in a rut professionally, look at the industry that you're in and look at the changes it's making and how can you roll with those changes? How can you become, as my therapist loves to say, a leaf floating on the river. You're just floating along. Let it carry you, don't fight against it. When I stopped judging myself for not having the skills and I spent time investing and growing them, that is when doors and opportunities started to open because it was undeniable that I had something to give. I would talk to hiring managers, what are you looking for? I would read the news. People were on social media. I learned social media just so I could sort of figure this thing out. I learned how to do a podcast. Brown Ambition, very successful today, 6-figure podcast. We built that ourselves from scratch, and we still own it to this day. I taught myself how to do it. I got mentors who knew how to do things, and I went for it. I had an endless appetite for information and new ways that I could move with the changes. So if you're looking at this economy right now and you're thinking like, oh, what am I gonna do? Economic downturns, they're cyclical. The only thing that's certain is that there's gonna be another one in probably about another 6 to 8 years. So why even fight against it? Get used to moving and grooving and changing and investing in yourself early and often, all right? Now, key 2, choose your champions. Choose your champions. I'm talking a lot about self-worth here, right? And this is America, so it's like bootstraps and like do it yourself and yeah, all those, the belief that if I can't do it, then that says something about me. I'm here to tell you, you can't get to a place of really deep love and self-worth unless you open up to others and look to them for support. Because like I said, the only thing that's certain is there will be ups and downs, especially the downs. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying you have to do it all on your own. When you move through your career, you need to cultivate relationships. I'm not saying go out and collect 1 million, business cards at a networking event. I can't think of anything that makes my skin crawl more than going to a networking event. Oh my goodness. I'm an introvert, but I use it as a superpower. I will find that one person in the room and I will chat with them till the cows come home. They'll remember me. And I just got to repeat that. Is it exhausting? Yes. But quality over quantity. And by being my authentic self and building relationships, and I don't just mean with managers, people who are above you, your peers, peers, people who will look at you and remind you that you are worthy during those times when you have doubts. Because you're never going to, let me just pull this idea out of the air before it gets too far. You're never going to reach a place where every day, I'm worthy of this, I'm worthy of that, I'm amazing, I'm brilliant, I love myself, da-da-da. No. Doubts will creep in. They do for me every day, But who are your champions who are going to remind you who you are? Be the mirror for you when all you see is a funhouse version of yourself. And this isn't college or high school, right? So when I say choose your champions, I don't mean they all have to be best friends with each other and we all wear pink on Wednesdays. That's not what I mean. They may not even know each other, but they're people you can call for support. Who are your champions? These people are going to appreciate you for exactly who you are, not for what you have to offer them. And they want to see you succeed. And this is specific. This is important. And if you feel your tummy kind of hurting right now because of what I'm going to say next, it's a sign that that person's not a champion. If you leave their presence and you don't feel lit up and you don't feel, maybe not incredibly better about yourself, but at least the same as you did when you walked in, then is that person really a champion for you? And is that the person who's going to be feeding your idea of self-worth or going to be chipping away at it? The older I get, the fewer friends, the fewer colleagues, peers, mentors I have, because you really get picky. And I encourage you to start doing that sooner rather than later. In 2021, I was at the peak of my career. Let me remind myself, I had the podcast Brown Ambition. I was about to get promoted to vice president at work, where I'd manage a team. I had a team of 30 staff, 100 contractors. I was making killer bank. My 401k was maxed out, and I bought my first home, paid for my wedding in cash. I was itching, though, for a new opportunity. I was itching to get back to my roots of storytelling, and I even potentially start my own business. But I wondered if I was ready to launch it. I stopped myself there. And I thought, would people take me seriously if I wasn't aligned with a big brand? I've been associated with a brand that sort of comes before me. And I was worried. Would people think that that was enough? And then it happened. While I was waiting to start a business before, get a job that I felt would give me the boost from their brand that I wanted, a huge financial brand reached out to me. I was up against at least a dozen of my peers and friends and even Tiffany. Yes, the head of PR accidentally sent me the deck. She was in trouble, but I saw who I was up against. I was hired after an intense round of interviews and auditions. I was hired to be the face of their brand. I was hired to help them reach communities that they hadn't been able to reach so far because of who I was, because of what they told me I had to offer. And I felt ashamed to say it, I felt real validated. They had chosen me over so many people that I admired and respected. That gave me a little bit of a good feeling. I felt worthy. They made it so. They chose me. I was special. Now, do you guys feel like this is the part in the movie where homegirl's driving and like you're like, why is this scene going so long? And she hits an intersection and she drops her phone and you're like, oh no. And then the semi truck comes left and then she's like in the hospital. Yeah, we're like at that part, except for I'm obviously not paraplegic. But 3 months into this new job, I realized I had made a big mistake. And so did they. We were not aligned. They did not want me for me. They wanted me for who they wanted me to become for them, to be the face of their company, this traditional financial institution. We mutually parted ways just 3 months into that relationship. My career is bookended by moments when a huge company says, you ain't it, sis. All right? But there's some poetry there. I was devastated, but this time it was different. I curled up in a ball. I had my boohoo moment, cried in my husband's lap, and it felt like I was that 22-year-old girl again. I was beating myself up. I was ashamed to tell anybody, feeling unworthy. It all came back. But then I reminded myself, I'm not 22 anymore. I had invested myself, and I had chosen my champions wisely. So the day after this heartbreaking moment was actually a day when Tiffany and I were meeting up to do something for Brown Ambition. And when I walked into her house that day, I remember just falling into her arms and telling her everything. When you're able to be that vulnerable with someone and they just hug you harder, that's when you know you have a champion. Because even at your lowest moment, they still see you as being worthy. She scooped me up. She looked me in the eyes and she said, absolutely not. This is not going to do it. This is not who you are. You're going to let them tell you who you are. She reminded me that they did not take anything away from you that actually matters. Sure, they took my big fat paycheck. They took the equity that I negotiated so expertly. They took the signing bonus that I had gotten, but they did not take anything that actually mattered. I still had my talent, my brains, my support system, and because of my podcast, a whole community of women who were waiting for me to do something else, waiting for me to help them achieve their goals. I never needed that institution. None of us truly needs it, right? Of course we want to eat, we need a paycheck. But for our self-worth, I never needed them to endorse me. They actually needed me. Look what they could have had. I had fallen into that same trap again, but luckily I picked myself up and I took a month off to reflect and I started my business with support from my champions, my husband, Tiffany, my financial planner, my therapist, friends and family, sure, but that's a given, When your therapist says, you can have a business, then it's like, okay, all right, she knows all the deep, dark corners of my mind and she thinks I can do it. 2 years later, I can't believe it's been 2 years. 2 years, 2 kids later, wow. Here I am, I'm happier than I've ever been. And for days when I'm not happy, I have my support system. I have the tools, my champions, my foundation, my soft place to land, because I know that there will be more down times, right? So I want to reiterate to y'all, choose your champions. And the last key to building self-worth for me, and hopefully for you too, is to get really quiet and know your values. Know what you value, what's important to you, not what social media or your parents or your colleagues, what magazines, what listicle of the week, what they tell you to value, what to like, what to love, all right? Be clear on and when you are clear on those values, you want to do everything you can to protect them, because then it becomes almost impossible for anyone to crush your self-worth. When we value ourselves because of our jobs, our money, our investments, our 401ks, the size of our house, the size of our car, what color car. When we value ourselves that way, all you're doing is giving people a tool. They can take that away from you and they can crush you. It can't be that, right? We have to find something inside of us that's not crushable. Now, I want you guys on your cards, I'm going to tell you what I wanted my self-value, my self-worth to be determined by, especially now sitting here, how I changed my idea of my self-worth. And as I'm doing that, I want you to take your paper and see if you would change anything on your on your paper? Is there anything you would add or anything you would take away? So today, I want my self-worth to be determined by these things instead. My humanity. I am worthy simply for existing of amazing things. I am worthy. Having the financial freedom to make my own choices. I am worthy of that freedom. Having autonomy in many ways, my work, my creativity, my business, so I can say no to the things that aren't for me and say yes to Marshalls, because they're the best. I am worthy because I'm a champion for others. I'm a champion for everyone in this room. You just don't know it. You didn't know I was championing you on, but I am. I've been here doing it, And for the women in my community, I've been championing for them. Championing them, you know what I mean. And especially to my boys, to my little boys, to my husband, to my neighbors. Let me tell you, my neighbors, they are the real champions in my life these days. My sister friends, and yeah, my family, but I champion them. I show up for them. And most importantly, what I find my self-worth is tied into, it's the way that I make everyone else feel when they leave the room after interacting with me. I mean it to Maggie in the back, Monica, who mic'd me up and seemed a little stressed. Hi, Monica, wherever you are. But if you're going to be in a room with me, I want you to leave feeling good, feeling okay with yourself and with me, of course. So did anyone change? I'm going to put I don't even know if there's a clock. How am I on time? Oh, hey, Monica, thank you. There you are. All right, so I want you to take that paper. Did you write down anything different? Does anyone want to share? Be a little vulnerable with us? Come on. Who thought beauty, hair, what you look like was part of your self-worth? For a long time. I feel like it's okay to acknowledge that we do feel sometimes better when we put on a lip or get our hair done and this, that, and the third. But you can lose hair, believe me. After 3 months, it starts falling out if you're postpartum. Okay, these kids will snatch your edges and not in a good way. Everything is finite, can be taken away. So what can be deeper than that, Anyone else want to share? And then I'll open it up for potentially Q&As. Anyone? I see a hand. I want to stand up. I'm tired of sitting down. People can say whatever they want about you, but you know your heart. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation where someone is trying to tell you something about yourself that just does not jive with, I'm sorry about the mic, doesn't jive with who you know yourself to be. That's happened to me a lot, especially being on the internet, the way that I am, the way I need to be for my business. I've gotten really good. When you know yourself and you know your value, it's almost like it just skates off you. It just slides right off, like a polished car. The droplets just like, my husband will love, I used a car analogy, but it just slides off because you're at peace with who you are. When you're cozy with who you are and your self-worth, just makes things so much different. So I want you, after leaving this session, to continue on. I want to talk about it with you guys in the lavender room if you'll have me. But I want you to start thinking about how you define your self-worth and how that can lead you to success. I promise you will show up differently in your personal and professional lives. You can finally leave that toxic job when you stop thinking that that's all you're worth. You can feel confident asking for that raise or promotion. None of the work that I do to coach women has to do with, have a firm handshake and make sure you go in high so they'll go low. It's walking in there knowing what you're worth so that you say it with your full chest and you're ready to walk away. Now that is self-worth. It has nothing to do with what you say in the negotiation. You may realize that you want to start a new chapter, and you can anytime you want, because no one has to wave a magic wand and pick you. You can pick yourself. You can pick this moment. You can pivot. You can change. You can start something from scratch like I have. You won't wait for permission to try new things, and you'll start investing in yourself because you deserve to be invested in. Give yourself nice things. Go for the 90-minute massage instead of a 15 one at the nail salon. Get a good one. You'll recognize when someone isn't a champion, and you will let them go with grace, I hope, or maybe not, but let them go. And you will get the good stuff in life because you know that you're worthy of the good stuff. Accept nothing less. Thank you so, so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And do we have any questions? I would love anything career, professional. Y'all are a shy bunch. No, you're not, please. I think I see some hands. There's some bright lights in front of me. I know exactly what people who want to start a podcast are, that keeps them from doing it. And maybe this will speak to your experience, but it's the feeling that there's so many already. What do I have to say that's so different? What do I have to say that's going to, stand out? And it kind of keeps you stuck from doing the thing, right? So for Brown Ambition, this was 2015. And when I met with my good friend, my champion, Tiffany, we met for the first time at a conference, and we just loved talking and talking and talking. We had such great conversations. And there was nothing else that I could see in the podcast space where it was two women of color, discussing things that matter to them, like finances, career, and doing it in a way where you feel like you're just having a glass of wine with your best friends, so that you can see through our friendship and our relationship sort of how you can achieve more, earn more, make smart financial choices. So that was the inspiration. Inspiration's easy. Doing it was hard. I shopped Brown Ambition. They said that I couldn't guarantee advertising revenue, which is true because ain't anybody listening to it yet. And thank God they did, because we own it ourselves. I taught myself how to do the show, and there's so many more resources today for budding podcasters. And you put your show out there, and it's a long game. You want to wait for your people to find you. But yeah, I would really encourage you to go for it. What's the worst that can happen? I think I had one question here. Yeah, I can't even do this like everyone else can do it. Why can't I just show up 10 minutes? Why can't I be the person who, does the juice cleanse or goes to the gym at 2 a.m, or like my sister does? She's psycho. That's just how she chooses to live life. That really hits home for me. And I think the New Year's resolution time coming up, let's just promise ourselves now. Write your resolutions. I love a goal. I love that. I do a whole talk on goal getting versus just goal setting. But when you write them, just tell yourself in advance, I still love myself even if I don't hit half of these. It's aspirational. And I was going to ask a personal question. Maybe you don't have to answer, but do you have a therapist? Yes. Excellent. When you are aware of those triggers that can start to make you feel like you are worth less, I would say get your therapist on the phone so they can get you back in a healthy headspace. I mean, I'm someone who has moments like that not infrequently. I work really hard, like I said, to make everyone feel good when I'm in the room, but not my whole life. And sometimes people have something to say about me, about an experience they had, and it's hard not to internalize that and then say, I'm a bad person, I failed in that moment, da-da-da-da-da. It's about, really grounding yourself in who you know yourself to be, and reminding yourself of that, and letting go that maybe someone thinks poorly of you, but that's not your business at the end of the day. You can only move forward with your actions to change anyone's perception of you. And even then, they may have their own crap, coloring their perception of you that has nothing to do with you. And that's something that really helps me, in those moments where I start to question who I am, or am I doing this right? I don't know, I hope that helps. Yeah, just forgive yourself and move on. I actually told my therapist the other day, she was like, you've had a couple of no-shows. We really need to have a zero tolerance policy. And I said, I can't promise you I'm never going to have a no-show because I'm a creative person. I'm writing a book. I get distracted. I have 2 kids. I'm not going to overpromise. When you know yourself, you kind of know your limits and your boundaries, and you know what you can say yes to. And I think we have to get out of the trap of just saying yes to whatever people ask of us because they're asking for it. It must be normal to ask for. But if it doesn't fit with you and the way that you operate, you can ask for something different, or just say, I really can't give that to you, what you're asking me for, but I can do this. This is what I can do. Hopefully you find folks who will respect that. I think the key is, what kind of results are you looking for, and are you realistic about them? When I started Brown Ambition, When consistency was important to us, and it continues to be. We've been around for 8 years. We're like geriatric podcasters, okay? People come up to me, they're like, you inspired me to start a podcast, and I'm like, okay, I'm older now. But that consistency I take so much pride in it. And I will say, having the right partner, Tiffany and I were not sister soul friends like we are now. Back then, we respected each other. I feel like when you are really close with someone and you're doing a project with them, you take each other for granted. You take each other's time for granted. You don't show up, you're 15 minutes late, whatever. But we treated each other like business partners. And we showed up and we did the work and we said what we were going to do. And I got very lucky, but I also chose intentionally that kind of partner for me. If you're doing a show on your own, then you have to be accountable to yourself. And that can be hard to do when you don't feel like what you're doing is making a difference. And for that, I will say what helped me with Brown Ambition is really encouraging anyone who listened, leave a review, we'll read it out loud. Even if it was one review, it kept me going. Because I'm like, someone is hearing this. Someone's, being moved by it. And then when you have your show and it's up, give yourself time. It took us years before we had, any significant amount of listeners. I mean, I think 10 is significant. That's 10 people who gave me their time, but still, the big numbers, and years before we even monetized, on the back of that. Focus on the message, the product itself, and getting that early feedback from the people who do give you their time, and fine tune it and make it better and get really good at, become obsessed with who you want to listen to your show and just give them everything they want. When you are with me, you will feel seen because I see you so well. And that's been the approach we've taken with Brown Ambition. And I would encourage anyone to take with their, creative project. Thanks for asking. Yeah. Any more? So her question is, early on when I asked you to write down self-worth, you wrote down financial success. And right now you're in a spot where you're not making as much as your peers and you feel ashamed or bad about it. So how do we sort of toe the line between wanting to make more but not letting your self-worth get wrapped up in it? So for me, I like to remind myself, what is the money for? I'm not just trying to get money. I'm trying to get something with the money, right? And for me, that is the ability to have a safe, warm, loving home for my children. For you, it might be the beautiful apartment that you found for yourself. I'm just assuming, I don't know you that well. For you, it may be the time that you have to do your favorite hobbies, skating, running, whatever it may be. If those are the things that you've chosen to do with the money that you've earned, you know what you're striving for. The money is not for us to feel better about ourselves compared to our peers. The money is for us to use as a tool to get the things that we value, right? And I think that if you feel good about how you've moved financially so far, and you can look to what has that money bought you and what has it allowed you to do, the freedom, maybe you're a person who likes nice things, that's fine, that can give you that sense of peace and calm. Like, I've used this money in a way that, really aligns with my values. And when you don't have as much money, when you're not able to, when you're looking at your peers, I think you have to remind yourself we are all on different tracks and different paths, and it may be beneficial to calm the noise. Like, if you find yourself being susceptible to the comparison trap when you hop on social media, don't. Do it a lot less. Or do my favorite thing. Actually talk to someone, get on the phone with someone who's just gotten a promotion or just started a new business or just won an award. I guarantee you they'll talk your ear off about the 12,000 things going wrong in their lives. I promise you. There's so many people whose lives are in upheaval, but they're winning awards. They look amazing on paper and all this. I mean, I had a moment this past week where I had to pull out of an event for my own mental health. And I was like, oh shit, I'm a part of this. I need to fix this. So I started to open up about it. I'm just saying all that to say, when you engage more with others and try to get to know on a deeper level what's happening behind the scenes, you'll find that we're all just like a 6-year-old kid, just, trying to heal the wounds and like live in this world of chaos and do our damn best. And you have to give yourself the grace to know this is a season for you, and it will pass. It's temporary. You're welcome. Look. Do we have time for more questions? No one's telling me anything. I'll just stay here all night. 10 minutes. Yes. the idea and the concept of boundaries, I didn't hear the talk earlier, but I hope this is when I talk about boundaries, especially in a professional setting, but also in your life, you can't talk about boundaries without talking about the fact that people pleasing and boundaries are in direct conflict. You have to be willing to make some people angry, inconvenience people, not make them happy with you if you want to set boundaries. And I actually, my dear cousin Anna grew up in a very sheltered home. My uncle was very overbearing. I'm not saying too much about that. I've said on the podcast before. Obsessed with controlling and knowing everything and tracking her. And this is my car. I bought you that car. She escaped to New York to live with me and like get off on her own 2 feet. And I'm so damn proud of her because she has. And this past year, she came in 2021. This year, she started to piss off people. And I was like, there you go. That's a boundary setting. Now you're setting boundaries. If you're setting boundaries and no one is annoyed at you or upset at you, I don't think you're doing it right. That is what it means. It means you're putting something in between you and something they want you to do. And it takes practice and it takes a lot of like reassurance to yourself. It's okay to inconvenience people sometimes. I was on the highway on the way here, and I was pumping on the highway. I was pumping, making life's elixir, as I was driving, because I love a multitasking moment. And one of the pumps fell out, and I just was like, I'm just going to pull over, not on the shoulder, because it wasn't that kind of vibe, into a turning lane. I just put my hazards on. And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably get honked at, but I got to adjust this because I can't have milk spilling all over me. You know what I mean? And yeah, I got honked at. And maybe they were annoyed, but I was like, all right, now I'm going to go and just move on from it. And that's a silly, but it's a real silly, example. But I think there are small ways each day we can take up more space, even if it means, potentially putting someone else inconvenienced or a little annoyed at us. Now, if it's your parents, that's even harder. Like my cousin, she had to put a lot of distance. It had to close that feedback loop. Don't even give them a chance to tell you how they feel about what you've done because they're going to have an issue with everything that you've done. So by her doing that, today, 2 years later, my uncle, he has finally learned to respect her. You'll call me when you're ready? Okay. You may not come for Thanksgiving? Okay. I can see him being like, but he's saying okay. He's respecting it because he values the relationship and he knows this is what she needs right now. You're welcome. Hope that helped. Yeah. Anyone else? I use the word champion because it's such a generic term, but there can be all levels of it, and I try not to use the words like mentor, ally, because it's like, what do those even mean? And it gets all confusing. So in terms of finding champions, I think and if you don't feel like you have a champion right now, you can find a champion in the room today. Sit next to someone, open up about something. If you guys connect, get their information, meet up for coffee next week. I moved from New York City to the burbs 5 years ago now, and I was like, who am I? Who even is this woman in the suburbs with a house and about to get preggo with a husband? It was like, why is my life suddenly so conventional? Where was I going with that? I might have to talk about ADHD at some point. Champions, yep. I was alone up there in White Plains. It's only half an hour north on the Metro North. Come visit. But I was alone. And the champions that I had in the city, they were there, but they couldn't be there for me, physically like I wanted. And I remember the day I was dropping my son off at daycare, and I saw another mom, and she had a natural curly hair. She looked like she had a nice vibe. I rolled down my window, and I said, hi, you. Are we just going to be friends, I guess? We should be friends. And that is one of my sisters today. Her name's Jessica. I made her chicken soup last night because she was sick, and I needed to make her something. Put a PB&J on the side, because that's what I would do with my own child. And I had to find connections where I was. And it doesn't mean that my champions in the city, did anything wrong. I just had to be realistic. They're not going to be able to support me the way that I need to be supported. Like when I'm stuck in traffic in Manhattan, like I was after leaving this event, and I needed Jessica to go pick up my kid from daycare. I can't ask my best friend in Brooklyn to do that, So that's one idea I want to get across, is that your champions may change as you change. You may need something different. And don't be too hard on the champions you've had. If they can't give it to you, just go looking for it somewhere else. And you can continue to make friendships even in my big age of 36. And I hope I'll continue making, new relationships and new, new connections and finding more champions as I move. Now, your champions, again, for me, the litmus test is, how do you feel after speaking to them, and can you be vulnerable, and can they be a safe space for you? And you may have to kiss a few frogs before you get to. I'm all about quantity over quality. And it depends on your style too. I'm an introvert, so for me, a conference is not where I'm going to go to find a bunch of new. I just would be exhausted at the thought. I like to see who's at that conference, who would be nice to talk to. I'll reach out to them one-on-one and get it, ask them for coffee or connect in that way. Just whatever, works for you. You're welcome. Yeah. They said 10 minutes, but I don't have a clock. Are we done? Yeah. Okay. Hey. Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much. I'll be hanging around, so feel free to come chat.